Call this meeting of the school committee for Lewiston, Maine in order on Monday, July 25th, 2022. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is school committee member introductions. We'll start with Ms. Paquette.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Bruce Damon, Ward 1.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Tanya Whitlow, Ward 4.
Ashley Medina, Ward 5.
Megan Parks at large.
Paul Vopelant, Ward 7.
And Linda Scott, City Council Rep.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consent agenda, which consists of business document, minutes for the school committee meeting, and personnel. Are there items on the agenda that members would like to have removed from the consent agenda? If there is no object, the consent agenda will be adopted. Anyone have anything they want moved? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personal matters, or student issues should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee, be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and any affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Is there anyone here who would like to address the school committee in public session? Seeing none, I'll close the public session. Next item on the agenda is to receive an update on transportation.
As everyone knows, last year we had a number of disruptions with transportation and remain optimistic and hopeful that that will improve. But the realities are that it may not. And we met last week with Hudson Bus Lines STA with their regional management and sat and worked and tried to problem solve together. There are currently 19 bus drivers short of being able to make the runs, which is actually as bad, if not worse, than last year because of the combination of those who would drive a van and those who would drive a bus. They've put forth some efforts up to and including looking into having a bus beyond potentially school grounds. We're still working out details to give people an opportunity to try to drive one, just to see if that's something they might be interested in. Really trying to get people to realize that the buses are automatic and not standard. So the drivability is different than some people may fear. Either way, it's a 7 to 10 week window between coursework, driving work, permitting work, and licensing work. Again, that's a 7 to 10 week window to get someone on the road. So when we had our status check last week, it was deliberate in that window of time between when we met and when the school year will start. And short of someone showing up already licensed, we will be short at least those 19 drivers. And so we will have our contingency plan. People, at least as of now, will hear my voice on a regular basis, whether they want to or not. But I think that's the responsibility we have. It's the situation we've been dealt. And so we'll continue to work at it. And if people have ideas, I'm all ears. We have explored a number of things, but bus drivers are in high demand right now across the state and country.
Thank you, Jake. Any comments or questions, Ms. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I feel like this is so far away from me. Are we going to make that public having that information out there, and may we possibly suggest, I'm thinking if we put it out early enough right away, maybe we can get parents to do some carpooling or think about alternative ways that they might be able to figure out transportation for the kids. If they can start working on that at individual schools, maybe the PTOs can become involved. That might help alleviate some of the need for, even though you still address each day and make that a known thing, it might make people, parents feel a little bit more comfortable with what's going to happen this fall, knowing in advance and not having to worry about it each week. I'm now going to coordinate with 3 of my neighbors on my street who take the bus. We're going to carpool. I don't know if that's viable. Gas is expensive, but I think that we ought to at least put it out there as an option for folks to start thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. We can push that out. One piece I forgot to mention that I think is critically important. Some of our students who have especially designated rides because of an IEP or an out of district placement is one of the areas where we're falling short the most. And so that's going to be a challenge for us.
Mr. Bopalon.
Thank you. Jake, are the staggered starts for some of the schools going to be any attempt at relief?
Not for the busing capacity question. The relief that it will provide, the messaging that we had shared out publicly last week, is really about giving people a chance to plan ahead, but also to diminish the time of instruction that students were losing at some of our schools because of the limited capacity. And also just, for example, we had one school where kids could be dropped off as late as half an hour to 45 minutes late because of the runs they were making and the diminished driving capacity. And so schools were starting, kids had already had breakfast, classes were rolling, and these kids were just getting dropped off. And so we were working to create a level playing field with those time changes.
The next item on the agenda, item 6, is to explore opportunities for student engagement in extracurricular activities, including admissions, access, and transportation.
This is something that's come up a few times, at least across my desk, and I wanted to at least give it the honor of having a conversation about it. But I'm also sharing this with kind of 2 different lenses. One is this would be great. The other lens is what would it take to do it? So the kind of the essential question that's come up is, hey, can we send a fan bus to every game or every student competition where there's a crowd allowed, even if they're academic competitions or poetry out loud or things like that? And I think that's a great idea from a conceptual place of supporting each other and our kids and building that camaraderie and school pride. But I also had messaging today with our athletic director at the high school, who right now we're trying to problem solve if we can get our teams to the competitions and our other co-curricular activities because of the shortage. And so in today's climate, trying to find another bus to send, I think would require a few things, resources that we haven't currently allocated or we don't have, like additional drivers. We've also not allocated funds for those buses to be hired out if there were drivers. And then a lot of those events obviously have admissions fees, and then I worry about supervision. And I think of some of the big events that we've had. We've been fortunate to be successful. Our kids and our coaches have gotten to places like deep into the playoffs or state championship games. And I know that when those things pop up, at least in my time as principal, Mr. Fuller would scavenge for adults to go help with just crowd control and helping the students be on their best behavior and representing our school well. So there's additional cost for finding those folks, getting them on a bus, tickets to enter the game, who's paying for that, who's watching the kids, who's making sure they come back on the bus. Is there policy to govern that, which there isn't? There's a lot of layers to this. So I just wanted to put it on the table. I wasn't looking for any commitments or votes or anything tonight, but I believe it or not, starting to think forward about how we might do some things differently with the labor crunches in various areas, and budget's already on my mind for next year. It's never too early, I guess. So if this is something the committee would like to entertain, I'm just looking for you to throw out more questions you may have, throw out support for the idea and concept to see how much effort or time we should put into trying to allocate the resources to do something like this for future.
Ms. Whitlow.
Thank you. Well, until we have our buses running up, full speed ahead, and I wouldn't support any extra transportation. I did have a question. It says to explore opportunities for student engagement in extracurricular activities, including admissions, access. Is that the same thing as what you were just talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a few layers of that for me. One, sporting events have a student ticket entry cost. There's a fee to get in, and not all kids can afford that. Are we looking to resource that somehow? Another concern that sometimes comes up is we will often be trying to supervise a high number of either middle or elementary school kids. And we're trying to navigate that. There was one idea of having like student IDs or something like that at one point, but again, there'd be a cost to doing that and saying you have to have your ID to get into the game, but then you have the visiting component. So there was questions about access, but also crowd control and how we maintain safe spaces. So that's what I meant by access.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. I would recommend PTOs again. So back in the day when we would do the Battle of the Bridges, and we would do the parades that go across, and when I was in school and stuff, it was parents that organized that, getting to the games and getting the cheering going, and you've got parents responsible for the kids if they're doing that. So my suggestion would be if we put that out to PTOs, but also to encourage folks to be part of PTOs more. I understand the boosters at the high school, but there's no real PTO at the high school for these other extra things that maybe they can raise money for those sorts of things, or to bring dances back. I think that we really need to put the word out and be very frank with people that parents need to be part of this and helping with this, and because we really want these things to happen, and it's part of pride in our community and pride in our schools and the sports events. But in the economic times we're in, I can't see how the school committee could take that on at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Beauplan.
Thank you. That was brought up last week by Member Bowden, and I really think it's admirable, anything we could do to improve school spirit. But I've reached out to people at St. Dom's and Edward Little, and there just doesn't seem to be the student interest that level. They like to go with their friends in private transportation, and when they have tried to do it, there hasn't been a response to make it feasible. So I think we have to consider that factor as well. Thank you.
I guess under where we're at, I would say probably this is not a high priority. This is kind of on the back burner. I do think it's a great idea, but doesn't sound like it's too workable at the moment under the circumstances. The next item on the agenda is item 7. It's a workshop on the LPS mission, vision, and goals.
All right, so I didn't want you to think that we were going to have a real big, massive workshop. This is something that we wanted to keep relatively short, but we've talked numerous times, even at budget season, about this process where we've worked off of the presumption of Lewiston Public Schools becomes this thing that you want to see it become as a great school system in 3 years. And so if you could visualize that, what does it look like and how did we get there? And that helps us work on building our mission, vision, and goals. And so it's come into my mind more and more lately because of all the work we're doing this summer with teachers and other staff and administration, that we've talked about revamping our mission, vision, and goals. And that's a school committee process. And we have lots and lots of input. And so I want to bring that input into a bigger conversation and start drafting some things and have it before you and look at that. So to start that effort, I have this 2-page sheet, which I'll pass out, and you can hold on to it. I think that's enough. And on the 2-page sheet, and actually I can share it with the audience too. 1, 2, 3.
Need more? 2 more? 1 more? 2 more? Good.
And so people have seen this in different forms. We used some Google Slides and also other forms and electronic tools. So we've done this with some parent groups, some teacher groups, some different leadership groups, had a conversation with some students. So we want to grow this conversation so that more and more people are included. And it's a 2-pager because page 2 is what I'm hopeful that after we talk about this briefly, you could give some thought to and provide some thoughts either now, informally, and or in writing at the end of the meeting or at a future date. So you could write these things down and share them. I'll read it out loud for those who might be listening. And it starts with Lewiston Public Schools leadership, some staff and some community members have engaged in discussions designed to build a shared mission, vision, and goals that support its realization. The work starts with a presumption, followed by questions for leaders and others to consider with regard to schools and programs. And the presumption, as I said, it's 3 years from today, and you look around and see an amazingly successful school system. Question 1, when you look around, what are you seeing? Question 2, how did we get here? I've also noted that one could substitute school system above with city, economy, community, and so many other platforms. And the themes that have emerged in the work that we did last year, again, not to a full draft or approval, but we came up with those 6 themes that we use to drive our work around the budget. And so knowing those 6 themes that existed then were just themes, not a mission, vision, and goals. But we have lots of inputs to that fed to those specific areas when we looked for themes and the feedback that we got. And so this is really a kind of a mini workshop, but is an invitation for both you and for anybody watching to provide input. And this will be shared out in a larger context so that anybody can provide input, and we'll continue to collaborate and collapse those 2 themes that emerge and build it to a mission, vision, and goals that can drive and anchor the work that we do. So I'm open to any questions, or if you want to just share some things, I'd be happy to record them.
Hi, thank you. I had a first reaction to number 4, which was I don't really think that they should be lumped. I think maybe equity and SEL are separate issues and both really important, but they're not the same thing. And I'm not sure how they ended up all together in number 4, but I would just advocate for attention to both.
Also number 4, agreeing with Elizabeth. And instead of maintain, I don't know if language matters, but instead of maintain, I think we need to improve upon it, not maintain.
Thank you. So you're going to share this via social media, get it out to parents, staff, all of that. I'd like to see even a copy of this go to the city council and maybe some of the directors in the community, as far as like even public works and the city administrator, they may have some, because I would agree that when this could be substituted for city and economic, but also all of these things do help the city and economic development and everything else in our community. So I think that their input would be useful also.
Yeah, absolutely. My initial thinking, I kind of included more here than I would push out. So the themes that we used when we built the budget, those 6 items, I do want feedback on those, but I don't know that I would push those out because I don't want to lead people. I want them to provide that feedback without the themes that are emerging. But I think these themes in some way, shape, or form will emerge. But
I'm a little slow thinking tonight. I think I'm still on vacation brain. I have to agree with that, specifically around, we want to hear what the parents are saying. Are they thinking that it's, this improved instruction systematically may not be something that's on a parent's mind, or it may be on a teacher's mind, or school safety? I'd like to hear also, so that we can almost get some statistics as to what's the most prevalent thing that people are thinking are part of the things that we need to improve upon, or what they want to see as our missions. Thank you.
So from that perspective, do you think it would be helpful to ask in kind of a general sense what group people might feel like they're belonging to, like teacher, community member, student, those kinds of subgroups, or leave that out?
So personally, I would be a little bit leery about that because there may be some teachers that don't want to talk about safety issues in the school, and it may be a top priority for them, but they're fearful of, and I'm not going to say this, that it's going to happen, but a repercussion or something that they're going to be talking derogatory about their school or something to that effect. And I wouldn't want anybody to feel that way. And even the kids too may not feel like they want to do something specific. They may just a general thing, and then we can hear what they're saying. I don't think that we should try to find out specifically who's saying it, but what they're saying.
I just wonder if there's a way systematically to collect both sets of information, but not linked. So we know the percentage of students who felt compelled to answer the question, but not exactly what they said or who said what. I don't know if that's possible, but as a social scientist, it would be useful to have that separate set of information.
I mean, we can ask without collecting information. But I'm open to it either way, I guess. But we don't have to collect emails or names.
No, I
people
just
could
meant type of
identify.
person, like
Right.
we should know who was motivated to answer. Like if teachers and students were apathetic, but parents were really into it, that's information. So having that set information, but separate from the actual answers might be useful. Anyway, I'm sure there's a way to do that. There's some technical way to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is there anyone in the public? I see we have a bit of an audience tonight. Is there anyone over there that's got some input? But you folks are involved in the schools, I know, so fire away.
Yeah, do you mind for audio so people can hear?
Person. Okay. Hi, good evening. Nicole Pendexter, Lewiston Middle School teacher. We have, as part of the middle school, with part of our PLCs, we had to have like an SEL time. And this was actually one of the activities that we did towards the end of last year. So I don't, if you ask for teachers' input, especially from the middle school, they may say, I've already given it. And that was part of that meeting. So I don't want anyone to think that the teachers would be apathetic to that, because they've already done it. So thank you.
Yes.
Do we have access to that information already? Okay. Great.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone, so I think, whoop, Ashley, go for it.
So I know I mentioned this before, but one of the things that I feel is going to make a big difference in getting all people heard is education on how to be involved, especially for parents and even students and stuff like that. So I would love to see that happen. I just feel like it'll make a big difference. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Whitlow?
I think that's always something that's difficult, is to get involvement for parents. Is there something you would suggest to how do we engage them? How do we inform them?
Well, I would say things like I'm on the Healthy Neighborhoods board, and we're really big on outreach and educating the community. So maybe partnering with organizations within the community or meeting people where they're at. Just things like that.
Go ahead.
Jay Rich, co-president of LEA. I'm also an ELL teacher at McMahon. So something I thought of is how are we going to make sure that our multilingual community is going to be involved in this conversation and making sure that we're providing translation. Thanks.
So we have done this work in multiple languages and also done some focus groups that were resourced with both interpretation and translation. So we will continue that effort though, but thank you for bringing that up.
And just real quick on that topic for teacher leadership that we hold, we would be more than happy to also do outreach for that. So again, just another idea.
Well, that's a little bit of a start. I mean, this is a big effort. This is going to take some time. So, Elizabeth?
Question. I just was wondering about the time frame. Like, is this something we're working on all year? Something we want to get in place before the term starts? Where are we?
I would love to adopt something by the fall or late fall, latest. And my thinking on that is we have gotten feedback over the past year. I think realistically, if COVID backed off like we had hoped last year, that this would have been done already, but it was very hard to get people together with all of the things that had come up. But I'd like to go into the budget season, which for us, like I said, it's kind of always, but really gets heavy in December, in late November, when we start to project things out. I would love to know the school committee's mission, vision, goals for them, so we can continue to have it guide professional development, budget processes, and things like that. But I don't want to rush it for sake of rushing it. I want it to be well informed, and I want people to see drafts and then provide input on drafts. So it would be an iterative process.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is report from school committee chair. I do not have a lot to report. It's been a very kind of a hectic month between negotiations and a lot of other stuff between the wrap up of the school year and everything. So I do appreciate everyone's efforts as stuff has come up, the time that's been put in. And we're just going to keep picking away. I know that Bill and the facilities group has got a lot going on with the JCI project, and we've got some other things as well. So a lot going on. We'll be bringing other stuff back to you, particularly on the energy report side, hopefully before school starts. So, Mr. Superintendent, a report from you.
Just a few things on the list. We did share the stop times. I want to keep saying it out loud so people have it land. And so we've had a number of people reach out, some in support, some asking why, and they've been good conversations. But that information is out there, and when letters go from schools, they'll also be including that. So there'll be another layer of direct messaging to families. There is an effort around Longley and what we're calling beautification. Much of the cleanup from the incident earlier this year has been taken care of, but with the outpouring of people that wanted to help and support, from 12 to 4 on a Thursday, we'll be hosting that effort, and a lot of people have pledged to show up, and we're hopeful that people will come and just be looking to help where they can. And if you have things that you want to help with, feel free to bring a rake or gloves or things like that. There's both inside and outside activities. And I don't think there'll be food at that particular event, but I can look into it. Yeah, so just providing an opportunity, but also thankful that so many people have offered to help. And for those who are available in that window, it'd be great to see you. And for those who can't, we completely understand. Our new Facebook page is up and running. The old Facebook page that had presented us with some hiccups, it takes 30 days for it to be actually retired, I've been told, by the Facebook world. So that will happen probably in about 15 or 20 days. We do have a job fair that our HR team is putting together on the 5th of August. That information's also been shared. And just as a little side note, our next meeting is the 15th of August. And so I'll be working to keep you posted on the latest developments. Staffing wise, as you probably saw in your folder today, we have a pretty rapid pace of hiring going on. I'm optimistic that those things are going to continue to go and that we'll be able to start school on time without too much of an interruption while we watch new subvariants. It's Lewiston Public Schools, yeah. And just so you know, we did broadcast that out to parents directly through our system so that they could start to see things pop up in that realm. Once the other page is down, which I was told would be mid-August, it'll be easier, I think, for people to just search and find. So we'll keep pushing things out.
Yeah, just on Longley School, because it's 12 to 4 o'clock, it's going to be hot. At least provide like a bunch of waters for people to come and help. I'm just thinking if I shove my kid off for a few hours to go help, can he be properly hydrated, or do I have to? I don't know. I'm sure other people might be wondering too.
We'll provide what we can, but I would encourage people to bring a bottle of water.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a city council rep report.
Thank you. We did have a meeting last Tuesday. We had a workshop to start the meeting off where we had a presentation from the Shelter Ad Hoc Committee. They did a phenomenal job in their report, and it's available on the city's website. And I would recommend anybody that's interested in seeing what they had to say about the homeless shelters and the statistics that we have in the community, go take a look at it. It's really well put together. We also reviewed proposed ordinance amendment for regulating shelters, but that's still very much in the infancy of it. We haven't made any decisions on that just yet. I would like to say that Mayor Shalene recognized Eagle Scout Troop 116 for 3 young gentlemen that received their Eagle Scout badges by doing community service work. One was fixing picnic tables in the park at Pettingill Park, and it was fixing a bench over at Longley, and there was all sorts of different things. So I thought that was great. And then we also recognized the outgoing and the incoming Lewiston Youth Advisory Council members. We had a lot, I think that we had 10 this year that graduated, and we have 13 new members coming in from every year of high school coming in, and every diversity in the city. I'm pretty excited about that, especially since I'm the advisor for that too, and it's a lot of fun. We also had a discussion about the Public Works Department received a National Fitness Campaign grant, and we're getting some outdoor exercise equipment. There was quite a heavy conversation about where that might be located. It will be located in Samard Payne Park to start, but there's also availability for us to get that grant each year to put exercise equipment in other parks. So that was exciting to hear. And there was a lot of other stuff like licensing and events and approvals and stuff like that. And I just want to remind everybody that we have an art walk this Friday it's the end of the summer. And there's a lot of good stuff lined up with music at Kennedy Park at the gazebo starting at 7 o'clock. So I encourage everybody to go. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. There is no student rep here tonight, so we can skip 11. 12 is updates from school committee subcommittees. Facilities, really, we're working with JCI, and that's just a work in progress at this point. We're looking also at some additional potential funding sources to do some work. There's a couple of programs that have been rolled out by Augusta that we're looking into to take advantage of. So that may allow us to do some additional stuff as well. So I know Bill and Josh are working on that. So that's from facilities. Ms. Whitlow, would you like to say anything about negotiations?
No, not really. I think we're in a good spot. We've done some hard work and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head when our next meeting is. Do you know? Tomorrow night? I do not have it on my calendar, so. Okay, well, tomorrow night, ed techs. 3 to 5. 3 to 5? Well, I'm not gonna be there at 3 o'clock. I could not make it to the last meeting. We're gonna fight, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, okay, well, that's why I didn't know. Yeah. Good.
Tomorrow night. The next meeting is for the negotiations team is tomorrow at 3. Beyond that, I don't know what's, we have some started with yet, as you know, so.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Perfect. So I did want to just talk about policy committee. We do meet tomorrow from 4:30, 4 to 5. So, so policy committee, we are going to talk about cell phone policy. So if anybody has any suggestions on what they would like to see in that new policy, we would love to hear it. I know that it's a big concern for parents, teachers, administrators. So we would love feedback from anybody in the trenches every day dealing with it. So
You won't be done.
Other subcommittees. Anything from curriculum? No?
As we're out of school, curriculum is at ease right now. Thank you.
With that. Item 13 is community announcements. Now, we've had a couple. One was the cleanup on Thursday. Others, Ms. Whitlow?
yeah, the August graduation. I just want to shout out to that. Top of my head, I don't know the exact date. I think it's the 9th, 10th, 9th at 6 o'clock. And where is that being held? Green Ladle. All right.
I'm trying to find the information on my phone right now and I can't find it, but maybe Jake knows. There's a school supply event coming up in the next few weeks. Do you know more details on that? Because I can't find it right now.
That's August 24th, and that will run from 3 to 8 p.m. In Kennedy Park. And they'll have music and school supplies and vendors. We did it last year. Malik Hall helps us organize that. He really takes a lead on it, and very thankful to him for his efforts. And so we'll share more details about that on the 15th.
Other announcements? Seeing none, we'll continue. Future agenda items. Ms. Ames.
I asked you, Jake, by email earlier, but I was wondering, since I keep asking about the graduation requirements, maybe we can set up a ad hoc subcommittee. So a group of people can work on this with the new principal and whoever else is on task. And then maybe 1 or 2 other people from here. And then we'll do it outside of this, but report to us. I don't know if that makes sense, but it seems like I've been asking for a long time. It seems like it needs to be done that way.
So there's a few things in play, including policy, because graduation and the requirements therein land in policy. So I am very supportive of an ad hoc subcommittee. I'm wondering if it should be an offshoot of a policy committee meeting. And I do have some other things that have come to fruition, including multiple pathways for graduation, potential for improving that. And also what you have brought to light, I think, with good passion, is the communication plan to students and families around where students are at and how do they continue to make progress. So I guess I'm supportive of either, but I also know that some of the people that are very passionate about graduation in that related area are also on the policy subcommittee. So I don't know if it makes sense to have it be a charge of the policy subcommittee or if it makes sense to have an ad hoc. I'm open to either, but I think it's work that we're all very interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you're on policy committee, I'm on policy committee. I think we both have some same interest in that whole collaborative piece. And I would love to be a part of that. I would not want to be the head of it, but I think you would be great at that. If that's something that the school board wants to do.
I'm seeing a lot of, head nods in the right direction here. So I guess that's, if you're willing to take that on, I think that, well, or maybe just as Jake said, maybe just one of the charges of the policy committee, that would be, one of the things to be working on, as well as some of the other stuff. So I don't think we need to make it something entirely separate. So.
Would we need a vote on that to make it like official so we can make sure things get done? I would like to see something. Maybe you can make a motion. I don't know if you have to, I don't know how this works, so.
I guess if someone wanted to make a motion that became a charge of the policy committee, I guess we could consider it.
I'm not for or against a vote on this to be a charge, but I mean, the agendas for different subcommittees get kind of driven by what I think is the input from all of you. So we bring things to facilities that come up, we bring things to policy that come up. And I feel like this is something that's just, it's come up enough and we need movement. So to me, it feels okay to just move on it without a vote. And I worry that if we vote on this, but not on other things, then we've created some inconsistency.
Could we have a verbalization of what that specific charge is again, so that we all know?
Scott?
Thank you. As the chair, you can just write up a charge and give it to the policy committee and say, I want you to. That is enough to make it a formal thing without having a vote, because the chair picks the committees and stuff anyways. So he can just do that and just say that specifically. I would have Elizabeth, you email him exactly what you guys are looking for. Bruce, you can write it up as a specific charge for the policy committee, and a policy committee can even decide that we've got a lot of work to do on policy. We now want to do an ad hoc committee, and then we can pick members for an ad hoc committee if it's needed. I don't think that that's going to be needed, and that just covers all your bases.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and with some input from all the members of the policy committee. I think we can get there, and I'm fine with doing that. I'd take that on. One other thing that we will be coming, I have been approached by the high school expansion committee again. That whole process was originally 3 phases. The first phase was the parking lot. The second phase was, of course, our addition to the high school. And the third phase is a performing arts center. There are some folks that are really passionate about that, and I'm very much in support of what they're doing. I think that we will be setting up a committee to explore some potential funding sources to get that going, and to carry on with the great success that we had. I mean, it took 3.5, 4 years for us to actually get the thing under construction, and another almost 2 years to get it finished. Well, I guess it's finished almost, but we're close. And they had less than half a year to really utilize it. But I think all of the input that I've had back is just how exciting it is it's created just another whole piece of the environment at the school that's been very positive and upbeat. And I think that the performing arts center piece of it is something that it can't happen in a vacuum. It's going to have to be an outreach to the community at large. And there will have to be some additional funding sources other than what we are doing, either through the schools or through the general fund. And I think that that's where we're going to start. I've got several people who have contacted me and that are interested in serving with me on that. And so I'm going to see if I can't get that organized, and I will be bringing forth some information back to the committee as we move forward on that. But I think it's one of the, as the size of our high school, we're one of the very few buildings in the entire state that doesn't have something. Let's face it, the basketball court is really not very conducive to performing arts. And when we see what's happened in places like Brunswick and Westbrook, and now it's going to happen at EL and then Bonnie Eagle, and there's a bunch of these places. They have these magnificent, like Waterville has just a phenomenal performing arts center, and it should have been built originally when the place was built back in the early 70s. It never did. It still isn't there. I think it's more than time that we go back to that and try to get, if it's at all possible, that for the next generations of our students. The arts is so important from the standpoint of everything that we're trying to do here, that we owe it to the community to try to work on that, to make that happen. And if anyone on the board or anyone listening is interested in working towards that goal, they can get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to let them know when we're going to get started. No date's been set for the first meeting yet, but it will happen before school starts. So anyone else? Future agenda items? Next item on the agenda is to enter into an executive session on a legal matter in accordance with 1 MRSA 4056E. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Whitlow,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Medina. Any discussion? On favor? So moved. We are in executive session. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I don't know how long.
You can discuss with them. I just.
Yeah.
I